Greetings and welcome to the introduction to astronomy. In this week's exploration of the solar system, we are going to talk about the Magellan spacecraft and its explorations. So what did the Magellan spacecraft do? Well, first of all, it was launched back in 1989 on May 4th of 1989. Its primary mission was to map Venus. Now, Venus is a very difficult place to map. In fact, this craft reached orbit on August 10th of 1990. And we've known for a long time that Venus is covered in clouds. So this craft was designed to map by radar. So send radar signals through and allow us to get a map. And in fact, its very first cycle, it did pretty well. It was able to map over 80% of the surface in the first cycle. And here we can see that map as the Magellan craft orbited and in turn took images, radar images of each section. Now you can see various areas were missed for certain regions, whether they weren't overlapped enough or there were certain downtime on the spacecraft where it was unable to explore. So that was just its very first exploration, and it's in a very elliptical orbit, allowing it to come in and get those images and then to move back out and then use the same system to transmit the images to Earth. So the first cycle able to get 80%, and after 3 cycles 98% of the surface was mapped. Now we were able to get a lot more detail here, and we can see some of the images that have been put together here. And in fact, here is one looking at one of the mountains there on the planet Venus. So we can get some of the structures from various different views and put together 3D renderings like this to be able to get an idea of what it would be like to look at Venus. Now what we're missing here is the actual coloration. So we can't really see the colors on Venus simply because we're looking at radar. So we're getting distances. We can get very good topography of it and tell the areas that are rougher and smoother. But we really can't see the actual colors through radar because of the nature of how radar works. Now that wasn't the only thing the Magellan craft did. That was its primary orbit, and primary purpose was really to again map the surface through radar and give us a complete map of the surface. As you recall from maybe some of the previous discussions in the solar system exploration series, we had some images of the surface from various Venera craft that landed on the surface of Venus, but only for very specific areas where they happened to land. Now, some of the other things that Magellan studied were the gravitational field. So here's a map of the surface gravity showing where the gravity is a little bit stronger in the red there and where it's a little bit weaker in the blue colors. So we had some differences in the gravity, and we see this on Earth as well, where there are material concentrations in certain areas, making the gravity slightly stronger in certain areas and slightly weaker in others. The craft was also dipped into the upper atmosphere to allow us to study something of the atmospheric dynamics. So we were able to learn a great deal about Venus from this craft, including getting our first complete map of the surface. While not a visible map, our first radar map, allowing us to really study the great topography of Venus for the first time. So let's go ahead and finish up here with our summary. And what we've looked at today is that the Magellan spacecraft was designed to get high resolution radar maps of the surface of Venus. Over the 3 mapping cycles, it was able to map 98% of Venus's surface. And it also studied things like the gravitational field and atmosphere of the planet. So that concludes this discussion on the Magellan spacecraft that explored Venus. We'll be back again next week for another exploration of the solar system. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.